Welcome to Sports Talk here on Love 101 FM. It is August 27, 2022. I'm Daniel Blake. Thank you so much for joining me. Sports Talk, as always, is brought to you by Jamaica Customs Agency, Country Above Self. Remember that you can listen to the show and Love 101 FM in general by downloading the Love 101 FM app in the Google Play or the Apple Store on your smart device. Go in your internet browser, love101.org, listen live there. Or if you want to see what's going on YouTube and Facebook, go on Love 101 FM's page and you should see me there. So, good afternoon to everyone in Jamaica and in the eastern part of the world. And good morning or good night to the people in Europe, Asia. You know what? That's why you should just say hello, good day. All right. So, today's show um, coincidentally is basketball based because later on we'll be hearing an interview I did with the president of the Jamaica Basketball Association, Paulton Gordon. Recently, there was a huge basketball tournament here in Jamaica at the National Arena. Huge turnout, great competition. We'll talk to him about the Phase 1, Elite 1 Summer League, which ended recently, and the plans for the Jamaica Basketball League, and so much more. And then later on in the show, we'll be hearing from the late, great Kobe Bryant, one of my sporting heroes and idols. He would have turned 44 earlier this week. In the USA, August 24 is known as Kobe Day, which was just a few days ago because he wore the number 8 and the number 24 jersey. So August being the 8th month and the 24, you know, yeah, very, very special. So we'll hear an interview with him, one of his last interviews, where he just, talks a bit about his career and really tries to inspire people while listening to the interview. So just stay tuned for that. Um, Today is going to be a great day as usual. Usually I go into my monologue in another few minutes, but I love to start off with the sports report, which I call the sports bits because it no really long like a sports report. So yeah. So let's start with track and field. Reigning world champion Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce says her withdrawal from the Lausanne Diamond League on Friday was precautionary. The 35-year-old, who was looking to better her 10-6 times that she has done this year, said she has been dealing with discomfort in her hamstring, which has not been recovering well. However, she hopes to compete at the Brussels Diamond League next Friday. Meanwhile, it was an eventful day for her fellow sprint stars as Elaine Thompson here a fall started, which is probably the first time she's done that in her life. Maybe I've never seen her do that, so it was really shocking. And then Sharika Jackson, she finished second in 10.88, with American Alia Hobbs taking the win in 10.87 seconds. Commonwealth champion Rashid Broadbell, big leagues. He won the sprint hurdles in a personal best 12.99 seconds, ahead of Americans Trey Cunningham and Grant Holloway. Our fellow Jamaican Hansa Parchment finished fourth. Commonwealth champion and world champ silver medalist Shanika Ricketts leapt to 14.64 meters to finish second behind Olympic and world champion Yulimar Rojas, who did 15.31 meters. By the way, if you ever see Rojas jump, it looks ridiculous most times. Like, she's disappointed with jumping over 15 meters and everybody is like trying to get over 14.5. That's absolutely crazy. Anyways, Janive Russell and Anjanette Knight were second and third, respectively, in the women's 400-meter hurdles. Brittany Anderson was fifth in the women's sprint hurdles. Candice McLeod and Stephanie Ann McPherson finished outside the top three in the women's 400. And Andrew Hudson was fifth in the men's 200 meters. So, football. The Reggae Boys ended their two-game friendly tour in Austria with a one-all draw with World Cup hosts Qatar. The boys were beaten 3-0 by Morocco on Tuesday. Their game against Ghana didn't go ahead because Ghana arrived late to Austria, which meant that the game was cancelled. The mostly local-based squad led by interim coach Miran Gordon are expected to arrive in the island this weekend. Meanwhile, world superstar Lionel Messi and Argentina are expected to play a friendly against the Reggae Boys on September 27 in New Jersey. The boys should name a stronger squad as it will be played during a FIFA window. They last played in the 2015 edition of the Copa America, where the boys lost 1-0 under then head coach Winfred Schaefer. It feels like such a long time ago, right? Over in St. Kitts to cricket, as the Jamaica Tallawers finished the group stage of the inaugural T10 tournament, dubbed the 60, with 2 wins and a defeat. The 4-day tournament, which is a curtain raiser to the Caribbean Premier League T20 tournament, saw the Tallawers beat the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots by 55 runs on Thursday. Then on Friday, recorded a 41-run win over the Barbados Royals, but went down by 8 runs earlier this morning to the St. Lucia Kings. The Tallawers will contest the semifinals tomorrow in hopes of making the final, which is also tomorrow, Sunday. And finally, in tennis, Novak Djokovic will miss his second Grand Slam of the year and the final Grand Slam of the year after his vaccination status prevents him from playing in the US Open, which begins on Monday. The 35-year-old who won Wimbledon recently to claim his 21st Grand Slam title cannot travel to the USA because non-US citizens need to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Djokovic has maintained his anti-vax stance, which also saw him miss the Australian Open this year for the same reason. Actually, I was going to talk about it on my Daniel log, but I have something else that I'm going to talk about. But Djokovic is my favorite player, by the way, so it kind of hurts to not see him play. But anyways, it is time for my monologue for this week, the Daniel log.
Hi, this is David Blake.
This is Hope Blake.
I am Ariel Brown Blake.
I'm here to tell you right now.
It's time for the Daniel log.
The Daniel log.
The Daniel log.
I love it.
Presented by no one.
All right, so for those who did not see, many-time English Premier League champions and world football giants Arsenal, yesterday they announced that their pre-match kit, which they wore and are currently wearing their match against Fulham, which is 1-1 by the way, it was dedicated to the Jamaican community because I believe it is Carnival weekend over there in the UK. So Arsenal has a black, green, and yellow. It's not gold. It's black, green, and yellow kit to honor the Jamaican community. As you know, Arsenal, they are in North London, and London has a lot of Jamaicans there, a lot of Jamaican culture and heritage. So Arsenal decided to dedicate that shirt, and you can get it. And on social media, everybody loves it. Everybody wants a shirt. Even if you're not an Arsenal fan, people have been saying, them really need to get this, right? So can I ask you a question? Anybody listening or watching, do you have like a Reggae Boys or a Reggae Girls jersey? Like, do you actually own one? Have you ever bought one? All right, next question. Do you have those Puma jerseys that you see our athletes wear at World Championships and even at the Olympics? Do you have any one of them? Whether it's the jacket or the sleeveless one, the one with sleeves, whatever it is. Do you have any apparel from our athletics? All right. I can answer that question for you because all of these are rhetorical questions. I 100% guarantee that 98% of you don't own any of that. And the reason why I bring up the Arsenal thing is that Arsenal can market this jersey, and trust me, it already started selling and a whole lot of orders have been put in because Arsenal and Adidas are pushing it, right? But have you seen the JFF push their jersey before? That's a genuine question. Not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but how hard is it to get a Jamaica jersey locally? So we've had over the last, all right, we mentioned Winfred Schaefer earlier. So in 2015, I think we had a deal with Rome, which is like an overseas sporting brand. Then we moved on to Umbro, and then next year we're moving on to Adidas. And I guarantee you that most people still have them Kappa Reggae Boys jersey from the 98 World Cup or the very early 2000s. And that's just a few people. Same thing for our athletes. We've been dominating the Olympics and World Champs since 2008. And I know for a fact that we don't have any of the kits there. As well designed as Puma sometimes puts our kits together, the J3As or the JOA or whoever, don't really push merchandising that well. But then when the tourists come or when people from the diaspora come and them want Jamaican things to wear, where we send them? Carbies or Sun Island. which is not a disrespect to Carbies or Sun Island, but I'm just saying that the JFF, the J3As, the JOA, all our sporting associations to an extent are missing out on huge merchandising opportunities. Huge. When you got to football matches, people are in Man United jerseys, Chelsea jersey, Man City, Arsenal, a whole bunch of jerseys. But you're not going to see nobody in a Jamaica jersey. You got track meets. As a matter of fact, when you go to the track meets, there are more people who will be wearing like KC, JC, Edwin Allen, all them schools, Woolmers. But you will not, I guarantee you will not see anybody in a actual Jamaican running kit. So, salute to Arsenal for honoring the Jamaican culture and for pushing their kit. And my plea now is to our sporting associations here in Jamaica, push our brand, push our jerseys, push our merchandise, because there's a lot of money in it. Trust me. And the jersey them look good, when you see them play, even sometimes even though them play bad, but when them actually wear the jersey, it look good, don't? So, hoping that them push that. If you want to leave some thoughts on that, on our merchandising issue, 876-997-3125 is our WhatsApp number. That's 876-997-3125. And you can also leave your comments in YouTube or Facebook. RN Denden says it's a shame. We should have jerseys to represent. Him also said that he had a Reggae Boys hat, but it dry rot. See that? JFF, him need a new one. All right, so we go into a break, and when we come back, we'll hear from the president of the Jamaica Basketball Association, Paulton Gordon. So stay with us.
am Pastor Courtney Morrison, co-host of the Mailbox on the family station, Love 101. Men, we are leaders, providers, and protectors. Let's continue to lead, provide, and protect the vulnerable of our nation, generating peace and prosperity to Jamaica land we love. Men, we got this. Monday, let's reignite the love.
Happiness begins at H&M. Have them lights with the live up on time. Have them grills with the brand new design. Got 15 stores, Highland wide. Got online, got Regency blinds. Got them zinc and the patio swings open every day. Boss at the hardware things, everybody sing.
Call us at 876-618-0829. WhatsApp us at 876-308-0165. Visit us online at hardwareandlumber.com or come in to any of our stores island-wide.
CIBC First Caribbean reminds customers that our ABM cards will be deactivated on August 31, 2022. If you haven't already done so, please upgrade to our Visa debit card now by visiting your home branch to request a card. If you have already requested a card, when collecting it, please bring with you a valid photo ID, proof of address, and documentation to confirm your source of income. CIBC First Caribbean thanks you in advance for collecting your Visa debit card as soon as possible.
Welcome back to Sports Talk here on Love 101. It is 1:17 p.m. here in Jamaica. So, as I mentioned at the start of the show, there was a major basketball tournament held right here in Jamaica at the National Arena. The Phase 1 team led by CEO Wayne Dawkins, they put on the Elite 1 Summer League along with the Jamaica Basketball Association, where we had players from the USA, Canada, I believe Barbados, and some of our Jamaican players and coaches participated. It was very well attended. The action was pretty good, and it was really quality basketball. So it was great. I believe that there will be a fall edition. By fall, I mean the autumn, the season, which should start maybe in October and November. And there are discussions about the National Basketball League that we have in Jamaica to partner with that. So it was great. So I decided to talk with the president of the Jamaica Basketball Association, JABA as it's sometimes known, Paulton Gordon, about all these things, about the state of basketball here in Jamaica, about our national team, the grassroots program. But first, we started out by talking about the Phase 1 Elite 1 Summer League and the role that JABA played in the planning and execution.
We're heavily involved in terms of, from an administrative standpoint. I was actually the vice chair of the steering committee for the event. So Wayne was the chair, I was the vice chair for the planning committee. So it was quite integrated.
Yeah. So how satisfied were you with the not just the level of organization, but the standard of play throughout the tournament?
Overall, I'm pretty pleased. I must admit I wasn't sure what to expect from some of the overseas players. I've been tracking the local players because we had a showcase in at GC Foster in April, May. And then a lot of the local players actually played at the Under-23 showcase at UTEC 3 weeks prior to this summer event. So I was able to see a lot of the local players, and I knew that they were in relatively good. They had relatively good fitness and good form, and was being guided properly. But the overseas players was a sort of hit and miss because we were working through an agent in Arizona, California area, and he's familiar with a lot of the players. So even in terms of doing the draft side for the international players, it's really just looking at their playing stats, their profile, and then the coaches and GM for each team had to make decisions based on that. They have never seen them.
So is that something that can be improved upon going forward? Because I do know that there's going to be a fall tournament and potentially a next summer tournament next year. How does the?
I must say though, Daniel, we were disappointed with the quality that came in. I'm just saying it was a little bit of hit and miss because we weren't familiar with the players. But overall, in terms of the quality that came, we are pretty happy, and most of them want to come back in between jobs. Some of them are looking for jobs overseas and are keen to come back for the fall tournament, keeping our fingers crossed that we can identify the resources for that and beyond. And because of what happened now, some of them might be getting jobs elsewhere. But that's fine. So the question you asked is whether or not that can be corrected. The way to correct that is we would have seen most of them now, and there are some additional ones who want to come based on what the feedback they have got. But it's pretty much the approach we are taking is to work very closely with that specific agent who has access to some of these players and be guided by him.
Yeah, understood. So, as you mentioned, we had some overseas players from the USA and Canada, but many of our Jamaican players and our coaches were involved. How important was it for them to get that exposure and experience?
Absolutely important. When I met with Wayne in terms of just the build out of the teams and the management structure of the teams, we had to look at persons who are involved at a certain level and who are current in terms of certain activities. So some recommendations were made. For the most part, we're happy. A lot of them would have said that they would have learned, especially from some of the overseas coaches and the guidance provided by Wayne and to a lesser extent Phil. But that is one step that we want to take in terms of incorporating or integrating talent at all levels, whether administratively, the playing level, officiating level. We want to have that integration for ultimately the growth of the sport.
Yeah. The basketball community, I like to say, is very small, not in terms of necessarily numbers, but everyone is sort of connected throughout. The turnout for a lot of the games were very surprising to me, even though, as I mentioned, it probably shouldn't be. But how encouraged were you by the turnout, and how much does it say about the fans craving basketball here in Jamaica?
Like you, I was absolutely pleased with the turnout. What we wanted to do, a lot of people were still skeptical coming out of the COVID. Well, we're not out of COVID, but coming out of that situation. And some persons were skeptical in terms of the turnout and the numbers. But what we did was, because we had a core of 28 local players, we mobilized through the players and their communities, especially for day one. So that, and the previews and the preparation and the promotion prior to the game one was decent. A lot of them are sharing the information on on their social media pages. And I think what was significant also was that when we had that draft party at Ribby's in the middle of July, that set the stage for alerting persons and creating awareness around the league. So a lot of persons were anticipating and were tracking some of the postings post the draft party for a good 3-4 weeks. And when the teams were finalized and the teams were presented, people were aligning themselves to different teams, that sort of thing. So there was a fair amount of momentum leading up to the summer league.
Yeah. Even in terms of that, I know that over the years, especially since you've been president, you've been trying to get basketball more seen, not just by the fans who come out at whichever arena or stadium it's playing at, but in terms of through social media, television, free to air, that type of thing.
Right.
Is there any concrete plan to improve that, especially as you plan towards having our National Basketball League and other tournaments?
All right. So the other thing that we were pleased with is the production. The production of the event for television, the streaming. So Wayne was integrally involved in that, and there's a proposal for a partnership there in terms of producing games of this nature. But as you know, it's costly, so that has to be managed. Certainly, we want to present basketball at that level. We know we can't do that all the while because it's costly to do that. After I took over, then came the pandemic, and then we were shut down for almost 2 years. So what we did at that point in time was we got some basketball in, but it was mainly international tournaments, and most of those guys were from overseas. So we wanted to remain relevant. So we sent teams to the national team to El Salvador. We sent under 17 team to Mexico. And I sent the women's team to Cuba. We wanted to be relevant, although we were not prepared in terms of the playing quality. But we wanted to remain relevant in the eyes of FIBA Americas. So now that we are kind of opened up, we want to have as much local basketball and again package and present it in the way that is desirable. So that is something that we're looking at. We're talking to a couple other persons who can distribute it and present it on free-to-air television. But we're not at that point yet where we say, okay, we're locked in terms of that. So essentially, that's what we want to do ultimately. We want the fan base to turn it out, but we also want to present basketball in a way that is pretty much first class.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we know that because of the pandemic, things were not moving as quickly as you would hope. In terms of the National Basketball League, what's the status on that? Because I know that I think it usually would start around October, November. What's the status of the league?
All right. In terms of conceptualizing what happens and looking at what can happen going forward, there is some preliminary discussions with Phase 1 again as to how we will present basketball for the rest of the year. I'm not saying this is written in stone, but I can express to you the thought process. What we're thinking of, and as I said, it's preliminary in terms of discussion, is to align the NBL with the fall league.
Okay.
And so it will be like a two-tier happening concurrently. The NBL and the E1 CBL league happening concurrently. And the projection is probably the latter part of October into December, 6 weeks thereabout. So it might be a truncated version, but multiple games per week. And again, the idea is just like you have the NBA and the G League. Ultimately, what we want to do is tie an NBL team to an expanded CBL, Caribbean Basketball League team, where you can actually move up and down. You have two-way contracts. You can move up and down between teams. Mm-hmm. So it's a broad picture. So we're hoping to see how we can pilot it this year. So the sponsors that we're talking to, we want to see whether or not they can accommodate both in a concurrent way. So that is the broad framework that we're trying to get going.
Yeah. The Reggae Girls, for example, had Sidella Marley, and she works closely with the JFF to ensure that the Reggae Girls get what they need. Wayne, who is Jamaican, has been kind of developing the Phase 1 Academy there. Are you hoping to forge more partnerships with him to help improve our local products here?
You mean as raised to women?
No, just in terms of similar to what Sidella Marley does with the reggae girls. If you're hoping to do the same.
Oh, certainly. That's why we had myself and Wayne had started that discussion about what's happening in the fall. So that is the dialogue that we're having in terms of how that can be presented in the fall. So we're looking at having other layers of activities. He also has 2 female teams in Arizona that he wants to bring in October. And that is a push now to improve the overall local growth and development of women's basketball. Recently got a donation from the Jamaica Canadian Association to kind of start the fundraising for the women's group. So 2 things that we want to try and do. We want to have an interim women's committee, and I've identified 4 ladies already who will be part of that. And then based on that, we see what kind of structure is required to create something, not necessarily the full-blown club leagues that we are accustomed to. They were accustomed to 5, 7, 8 years ago. But to see how we can start the process of reestablishing a women's league. So we have four ladies identified for that interim committee, and I'm hoping that we can start planning next week in terms of how we're going to roll that out. And then, as I said, we just got one donation already from the Jamaica Canadian Association, and we are having dialogue with some other persons as to how that can be supported.
Yeah, speaking of that, we know that funding has been a major issue for JABA over the years. With this recent summer league and all the plans that you have, are things looking more optimistic than usual, or is it the usual, wait and see type of game?
Well, as you know, everybody's emerging from the pandemic, and a lot of these companies are saying the very same thing that individuals are saying. We engaged 2 or 3 companies as part of the partnership for this summer league, and they have expressed interest in terms of continuing, in terms of supporting basketball. But we'll see where that leads. We'll have further dialogue and see where that leads. But we are hopeful. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. That's all you can be at this point. The 3-versus-3 format has also been something that you've been pushing over the last years, especially with its popularity growing. It's being introduced at the Olympics. What kind of success have you seen so far from that push, and what improvements would you say are needed for us to get to that level where we can at least be competitive with some of the rest of the world?
All right. As it relates to 3x3, we last year in November we participated in the America Cup, which is 18 teams between North America, Central America, Caribbean, and South America.
Yes.
We ended up 6th. We got knocked out in the quarterfinals by America, the eventual champions. And that kind of put us on a different radar, because FIBA Americas and FIBA started asking some questions. Subsequent to that, we were able to write a proposal for an official 3x3 court, which they actually shipped to us in July, but it's still sitting on the ports because of some bureaucracy. So we're trying to get that off the port. So that was a clear win based on what transpired last November. So when we're able to clear that court, what we want to do is have partnership with organizations, and have 3x3 competitions right across the island. We want partners like, say, at KFC. We could have a big tournament in a KFC parking lot, because these mobile courts can be laid on in a flat surface. Yeah. It is international standard. It has everything that is required. The hoops, the shot clocks, everything. It comes with everything. So what we want to do is get that off the ports as soon as possible, and then start broker some arrangements with some potential partners to have these competitions. And we know that will grow the sport. That will grow the sport big time. The more 3x3 competitions we have, the more we are on the radar of FIBA. As you mentioned, it's now an Olympic sport. In the recent Commonwealth Games, it was a 3x3 version that was played and not full court. So a lot of these regional active events are now focusing on 3x3. We want to be front and center for both a full court and 3x3. We want to put infrastructure in place, well, in terms of the planning and the administration to support 3x3, the growth of 3x3. It's quite exciting. It's taken off all over the world. It's huge in Europe. And we think we have the quality to compete with anybody.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of, similar to you, Rick Turner, who was appointed our national coordinator, national coach back in 2019, hasn't had the smoothest of rides, mostly due to the pandemic. But as you mentioned, we have participated in some tournaments which he has overseen. How pleased are you with his work? And, is it still like a long-term project like it was announced back in 2019?
I agree with you that he hasn't been given the ideal shot because of the pandemic. His first tournament was in El Salvador in 2019 or 2020, and when the national players congregated in El Salvador, it was the first time they were seeing each other, because we had players from Canada, we had players from North America, and we had a couple from Jamaica. There was not even one training session because we couldn't train in Jamaica at the time. But because of the importance of the competition, we wanted to participate, hopefully to get over that hurdle so that we would get onto the next stage of qualifying for Olympic, possibly Olympic berth. But so we started out well, the team was unfit, ultimately didn't qualify. So it's hard to judge him from that. And subsequent to that, he took the team, the 3x3 team, to Florida. Did very well, did fairly well. The under 17 teams are not under the watch of Rick. As you know, Simone Edwards is the one who is the national coordinator for that, and she has selected coaches to monitor those. But it's very difficult to really judge the coaches at this point in time. We know there are gaps there in terms of what is required in terms of coaching because of lack of opportunities. And that is something that we aim to correct. With Olympic Association, IOC, Olympic Solidarity, has just granted us a level 1 training course for the latter part of this year. So we have a committee working on that now. They have revamped the whole coaching mechanism, the whole coaching approach, and they have standardized it worldwide to everybody. Whether or not you have different certification, will have to come through this new process. And they have selected us, and we'll be having 15 coaches in November, December, being a part of that. So that's a start in terms of heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Finally, as we've mentioned a lot about the pandemic, it truly hampered a lot of programs, especially the grassroots. I know that since the start of the year, there have been more camps compared to last year and even the year of the pandemic. How much effort is being put into the grassroots level right now?
Boy, we're quite happy for those camps. I'm saying this year has been a blessing. We have had 3 or 4 strong camps. We have had the Star Search, the Jump Ball, the Treasure Beach camp. We started out this summer doing some mini things with prep and primary schools at the stadium. So there has been a whole lot of opportunities like that in the summer. And that is something that we want to continue, because when I speak to some of the high school coaches, they are telling me that they have kids for the under 14, under 15 tournament who has never played a competitive game because of the pandemic. They entered school at 12. In 2020, they had to abandon the competition. 2021, there is no competition. And this is the first time this year that they have been on a court with a referee in a structured sense. So you have no players who are 14 going 15 who has never actually, until a few months ago, has not played an organized game. They have trained, but they have not played an organized game. And that makes a world of difference. So we're happy that we have been able to do that. Coming out of the Star Search camp in the summer, the KFC Star Search, 4 youngsters are now in Florida. They've left this week on scholarship. So that is back on track. There are a couple of young ladies from Majesty Gardens who got scholarships, but they are trying to work through their documentation. So all of that's back on track. The more we can expose these youngsters, pretty much that's what we want.
Paulton Gordon there, president of the Jamaica Basketball Association, ending there by talking about the state of our grassroots program, and spoke about our national team and the recent Phase 1 Elite 1 Summer League and plans for our own National Basketball League. We go into our final break, and when we come back, we will hear from one of the greatest basketball players ever, the late Kobe Bryant. So stay with us.
Do you have a heart condition? Your care should be in the hands of our experienced cardiovascular team at Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. We're one of the leading heart centers for angiogram, stenting, pacemakers, EP studies, and ablation therapy. PICJ has the expertise and latest technology to treat all your heart needs. Call 876-995-7425 or email info@pic-jm.com for appointments. PICJ, your partners for life.
CIBC First Caribbean reminds customers that our ABM cards will be deactivated on August 31, 2022. If you haven't already done so, please upgrade to our Visa debit card now by visiting your home branch to request a card. If you have already requested a card, when collecting it, please bring with you a valid photo ID, proof of address, and documentation to confirm your source of income. CIBC First Caribbean thanks you in advance for collecting your Visa debit card as soon as possible.
Keep fully connected with Flow Fiber Fast Internet at home and on the road with LTE data and calls for a fast, reliable experience anywhere. Over 500 communities have been upgraded since 2020, making more of Jamaica Flow Fiber Fast. And with Yard and Road, get Flow Fiber Faster Yard and LTE Road for as low as $3,999 plus GCT. Visit discoverflow.co to get connected on Jamaica's largest network. Conditions apply.
Become the hero on the scene by taking the COVID vaccine. Get vaccinated as soon as you get all the facts. Don't listen to the rumors. This vaccine might just make it possible for teachers to sit face to face with schoolers. This vaccine make it safer for everybody, from the young to the elderly. Don't you want to go back to living normally when things were more orderly? And if you want to live a long good life, then we all have to do what's right. So let's get vaccinated along with the heroes on the front line.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Well, if you want buy appliances for your home with the quality high and the price low, get it on Habashco. Get it on Habashco. Bashco. See everything where you need. Bash quality service guaranteed at Habashco. Bashco. That gives you more. Yeah, Bashco. Get furniture for your house, cleaning everything for your kitchen, rugs, mugs, and more at Bashco. The store that gives you more. Bashco.
CIBC First Caribbean reminds customers that our ABM cards will be deactivated on August 31, 2022. If you haven't already done so, please upgrade to our Visa debit card now by visiting your home branch to request a card. If you have already requested a card, when collecting it, please bring with you a valid photo ID, proof of address, and documentation to confirm your source of income. CIBC First Caribbean thanks you in advance for collecting your Visa debit card as soon as possible.
It's 1:45 and we are still here on Love 101 Sports Talk. So, you know, a lot when celebrities and athletes pass away, it's obviously sad, but it doesn't usually shake me like, you know, like if a family or a loved one had died, right? But when Kobe Bryant passed in 2020, it was very rough for me simply because Kobe was someone that I looked up to as a role model. He was my favorite basketballer. He was one of the reasons why I fell in love with basketball and still love basketball to this day. For those who don't know, Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest players of all time, 5 NBA championships, 2 finals MVPs, 1 regular season MVP, 2 Olympic gold medals. If I keep listing his accolades, it would be a very long time. This week, I believe August 23 would have been his 44th birthday. And in the USA and in other parts of the world, August 24 is known as Kobe Day. He wore number 8 and number 24 during his time with the Lakers. So August being the 8th month and the 24th day combining, it's very, very special. So you're going to now hear a snippet of an interview that he did after he retired, one of his last interviews where he, you know, spoke about some of his experiences playing basketball from a very young age, not being very good and everything, and, you know, just some lessons that he learned. We might not hear all of it, but hopefully you will enjoy. So here is the late, great Kobe Bryant.
My father was really influential at a really critical time where I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old in a very prominent summer league in Philadelphia called the Sunny Hill League, where my father played, my uncle played, and they were like all-time greats and sort of stuff. And Wilt Chamberlain played in the league, you know, Earl of Monroe played in the league. And here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds? Or you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How did you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible.
Awful. I mean, and I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast. I had socks all the way up here, and I had like the high top
skinny,
fades, like skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm going to love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. Let's go.
Right.
And from there I just went to work. And I stayed with it, and I kept practicing.
Is that when you think the mentality of hard work started to come in for you at that age, when you failed so miserably, I guess, that summer?
I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important. Because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought, right? What do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. Right. After that, all right, creating your own shot, and then you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. When I came back the next summer, I was a little bit better, right?
And a menu being like, I've got my jump shot from 15, I've got my
I got my jump shot from 15, I got my 3-point shot, like just open shots, not miss open shots, right? And be able to shoot it with speed, because those kids are so much more athletic.
Yeah.
And then the next summer I came back, I was a little better. And the summer came back.
You
Next
scored.
summer, I was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much,
right.
but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old. And then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals. While they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame. And
then your athleticism, once you have the fundamentals,
exactly.
the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow. So from 13, you're good, average still?
I was good. I was good. And then about the end of my right when I was turning 14, I became the best player in the state.
At 14?
At 14.
So from 12 to 14, you went from scoring 0 to being the best in the state of all ages.
Yep. But it's simple. Like if you do the math on this, right? Like if you're thinking about how often kids are playing, right? And I tell this to my daughter and my daughter's team as well that I coach. It's a simple thing of math. If you want to be a great player, if you play every single day, 2-3 hours, every single day, over the course of a year, how much better are you getting? Most kids will play maybe, an hour and a half, 2 days a week.
Right.
Do the math on that. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done, right? So if you're obsessively training 2-3 hours every single day over a year, over 2 years,
you're accelerate.
You make quantum leaps, man.
Just doing a summer camp for 2 weeks, you see a difference. I remember playing basketball growing up.
You see it.
You get a lot better, and you come back more confident playing on the playground with guys who used to beat you.
Yeah, and I tell the parents on my team, I said it's when I say your kids are going to become great basketball players, and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's not. There's no.
It's math.
That's it.
Show up every single day.
Show up every single day, do the work.
But you have this Mamba mentality. Your book's coming out soon, and how did you develop this? There's a beautiful story that I love from Jay Williams. I don't know if you remember Jason Williams, where he did an interview a while back, and he talked about how when he played you, I think the first time, or one of the first times he played against you, he was like, I'm going to show up so early to the court to warm up and practice like before anyone.
Yeah.
And he shows up at the court. I don't know if it was in LA or where it was, and you were the only one there. Already shooting free throws, already doing your fundamentals. And he goes, I'm going to stay here until Kobe leaves. And then he was like, gosh, an hour and a half, 2 hours later,
I got to go.
I'm tired. And Kobe's still shooting free throws, scoring, like just going over the fundamentals. And he goes, and then we played that game and you were lights out. And he came up to you afterwards and said, like, dude, why were you in there for so long? And how'd you do it? And he said, this is what he said, you said, I knew you were watching and I wanted to show you that I was willing to outwork you.
Right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this.
I remember it.
You remember, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was so powerful that you have this mindset, but how did you develop that? I don't know if that's what you call the Mamba mindset, but how did you develop that? And when did it start?
It started in middle school and high school because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids.
Yeah.
And so they're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft, right? He's from the suburbs of Philadelphia. His father played in the NBA, played professionally.
He's got it easy.
Born on second, all this other stuff, right? And so they felt like they could try to be physical or try to intimidate me and do all this other stuff, which they couldn't, right? But now I'm saying, okay, well, you're trying to attack me. How am I going to attack you? How can I mentally figure out ways to break you down? How can I show you that, no, I have the edge, right? And so that's when it first started for me, is figuring out how to get the upper hand on an opponent that way.
And what would you do to mentally break people down then?
Well, I mean, we used to have an All-American camp that I used to go to, and at the time when I first showed up, I was a sophomore, and one of the things I would do is while everybody would be at the cafeteria, work, eating and doing all sort of stuff, I'd just go back to the gym.
They'd be resting,
eating, and they'd see me leave, right? But now you're in a tough position because you're like, okay, I want to be like, I'm following the kid to go work out, but I know he's working, he's up early, and he's doing all this other stuff. And so that was my way of showing them, I may be from the suburbs, but you're not going to outwork me.
Wow.
And I'm mentally going to.
Did someone teach you that? Was that just a thing that you decided, like, I'm going to get in people's minds?
I think it's just figuring out ways to be better and to win the game. And it started as a defense mechanism because they were the ones talking trash to me, and kid from Italy, blah blah blah, and all sort of stuff. It was like, okay, I can't let them, I gotta defend myself
Yeah.
here, right? And then it became, okay, I'm pretty witty. I can say some pretty witty things.
Yeah. And in Italian.
And in Italian. Yeah.
It's interesting, I never was physically gifted to an extreme level. I was always really good, but I was never like the fastest or biggest or strongest. But I remember my edge was I'm not going to go party and I'm not going to drink alcohol.
Right.
So I've never been drunk still because I was like, I need every edge when guys were out partying late at night who were better than me and drinking and showing up hungover. I was like, I'm going to be more focused and have clearer vision. And but I wasn't waking up at 4 a.m. like you. So
well, that's interesting because like when I played, one of the things I had to learn is how to get the best out of my teammates.
Yeah.
And most people think it's a simple thing, pass them the ball. But that's not how you make guys better. You have to really affect their behavior.
How do you do that?
So, I would tell guys, you got back-to-backs. I don't care if we're in Miami. I don't care if we're in a great city of Chicago. You can't go out. We got to get rest. Right?
Back-to-back games.
Back-to-back games,
Yeah.
right? Monday, Tuesday. You play Monday and play again Tuesday. Guys aren't going to listen, right?
Right.
So a few times I say, all right, we'll all go out. We'll go out together.
Really?
I'll drink with you, right? But the next morning, I'm banging on your door at 5 a.m. Let's go.
They're not getting
Where are we going? I hung out with you. Now you come hang out with me.
Wow.
This is what we do. All right, let's go. And we're at the gym. We're working out, right? We hit the bus. We go to practice. We play that night.
And they're dead.
And they're dead. And they're like, lesson learned.
Really?
Lesson
So
learned.
take them out once.
Listen, if you're going to do that. But don't let that compromise what we're here to do.
Right.
This is why we're here. This is why you're here in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
And if we're going to win a championship, we have to have that championship mentality
That's it.
and work ethic.
That's it. So you got to show them, no, Kobe can do that and still has the energy to get up and do this. So either I got to meet that same energy or I got to keep my butt in my
Go to
room.
bed early, yeah. Wow. What are some other things you did to rise the level of your teammates? What are some other ways that you can? And what do you think people can do in general with a business team or any sports team?
I think you have to listen and you have to pay attention to what your colleagues or teammates are saying, and what are certain things that drive them, certain things that motivate them, that trigger them. One of my favorite ones, Powell hates it every time I tell this story. He hates it. But we lost to the Celtics in 08. And it was a physical series. I mean, they beat the crap out of us.
Yeah.
And so we go into the Olympic year, that year. We
Yeah.
wound up playing Spain for the gold medal match. And we beat them.
Uh-huh.
And so now we come back to start training camp. And Powell shows up the first day of training camp. I had my gold medal hanging in his locker.
Oh, no.
And he, like the one thing that he truly, truly loves is his country.
Of course.
That is like everything to him. So it just drove him crazy.
Oh
I
my
said, Powell,
gosh.
listen, you lost to the Celtics. You lost to us in the gold medal match. Let's not make this 3 in a row this year.
Wow.
Okay?
That is
Let's win this
brilliant.
thing. And that was it for him.
And he probably stepped up at a whole nother level.
Well, he Powell was a phenomenon to begin with. And then
Yeah.
for him was just stepping up to a level of physicality that we needed him to get to, which he did, and we went on to win back-to-back championships.
Kobe Bryant there, the late, great Kobe Bryant, speaking with Lewis House there. Just a snippet of it there is much more. Unfortunately, we can't play all of it, but you can go on YouTube and find it there. So sometimes it doesn't feel real that he's not here, especially when you see like those old-time basketball players still around and still going to games, and yeah. So rest in peace, Kobe. So that is the show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, Sports Talk was brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency, country above self. Please join me again for Sports Talk next week, Saturday, same time, same place. But also, if you want to hear some music and some vibes on a different side of me, I'll be hosting Youth Connection right here on Love 101. That's right, me. 3 to 7 p.m. They have some music, whole a vibe, so you can come listen there. But for Sports Talk, remember, join me again next week from 1 to 2 p.m. Please enjoy your weekend and stay safe.